Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. I've been really honored to be allowed to speak over here. I'm going to start by saying my name is Anne, but I'm not going to bore you with my professional background to try and gain credibility before I start my talk. In fact, I'm just going to get into it. But I'm going to start by us just taking a look at this image because it kind of reminds us of the humble beginnings of Dubai. And a lot of times we see the glitzy, glamoury side of Dubai and we forget where we really came from. And to be quite honest, we've come a long way in a very short span of time. And we need to give Dubai and the people who moved to Dubai credit for that. So I'm going to start this presentation by letting you listen in on a voice note from a really credible man in the industry. Some of you might know him, and you might have met him. And I have great respect, as I'm sure many of you have great respect for him. So that's the man who's behind this voice. And you know what? To be quite honest, he just said that he grew up in a house made of date palm leaves. And we're talking about just half a century into that, and this is the man behind the Burj Khalifa. You know, we often stand and we point fingers at entities within the industry who may not be delivering things that we want them to deliver to make the real estate model ideal. But we have to go back and take a step back and realize that each and every one of us here has a vested interest to be a part of the Dubai real estate market. We know it's a developing country, so we shouldn't be complaining. We should be helping and taking responsibility and doing the best we can to make it a successful model. Of course, there are certain things that have to happen from a fundamental level, and they are happening over time, and we're going to go through that right now in this presentation. So I'm standing here. I'd like to just touch on why I'm standing here and why I've had the privilege to present. I stand here representing a brand that I take so much pride in. I represent dubizzle, and the reason I say that is because I grew up here. I've been here 30 years. I look like I just came out of university, yes. A lot of people say you could pass for 21, maybe 22, but no, I've been around longer. And it takes great pride in standing here representing dubizzle, because dubizzle was a brand that was born here as well, just like me. And I've seen it grow, just like I've grown in Dubai. And, you know, this takes me back to when I was 13 years old, when my parents wanted to change the house that we lived in. Do you know what we used to do back then? We used to go around from building to building, literally looking for one person in that building. Do you know what that person did? He was a watchman. Do you know what his name was? Yusuf. Yusuf would be sitting under a building, in a lobby of a building, and he would know all the details of that building. He knew who moved in, who moved out, whether the family on the third floor was having a baby. He knew everything. And it's either Yusuf or Raja that helped when it came to telling my parents what price the apartment was. And who could you trust? You couldn't trust anyone. I mean, they could be saying a price that was 20, 30% higher and we wouldn't know. And this is exactly why dubizzle was set up, to drive transparency in the marketplace. And it actually did just that. And you know, it's not just dubizzle. When we look at the industry now, there's a lot of players in the market that are trying to help drive this transparency, because the only way we can make better decisions is if we have information at our hands. So let's get this presentation started. What I've done is I've taken 3 top communities. We're looking at Dubai Marina, Palm Jumeirah, and downtown Dubai. We're looking at 1-bedroom apartments for rent and for sale. And we're looking at an aggregate, pretty much an aggregate value for these communities, so we're not really breaking them down, just to understand what's happening with the pricing model from 2012 up until 2015. The changes that have taken place since 2012, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to really make this a little bit more humble. We're going to look at it through the eyes of the community, through 3 people who've actually lived in Dubai. So we look at Rahul Mehta. All right, I'm sure every agent out there knows a Rahul Mehta. This man was born in India, but grew up in the UK. He has 2 properties that he's renting out in Dubai. And he has one property that's sitting idle. He came about when there was a boom time in Dubai. He lost some, he won some, but he's still around because he can see the market picking up again. Then you have Jackie. Jackie just landed her first job outside the Philippines. She's an administrator. She's sharing an apartment in Dubai Marina with 2 of her friends, yeah? Lastly, we have this lovely couple. Her father has been around for a while. What has he been doing? He set up a business in the UAE, safe haven, grew up here. They're not planning on leaving. They're going to be here a while. So now, taking into consideration these 3 people, we're going to look at year-on-year comparisons, and we're going to start with 2012 to 2013. So what are the events to highlight in 2012? The GDP grew in Dubai 4.4%. The previous year, it grew by 3.4%. We could see that the market was already starting to look healthier. Dubai started to get the limelight again. It was ranked the 2nd hottest property market. Hong Kong was ranked number 1. Comparison that happens quite often, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai. The Land Department announced transactions worth $154 billion in 2012. This was actually up 8% from the previous year. Then we went into 2013. This is when legislations were revised, there were new decrees that were passed, there were new laws that were passed, and this was all around sustainability. And I love that word. It's such a big word, you know, and we often don't really know how to make any market sustainable. It takes a lot of players to kind of get that equation right. The mortgage law came out where there were rent caps and people had to pay back their mortgage within 25 years. They were not allowed to make mortgage. Now they're not allowed to make mortgage payments by taking out another personal loan or using a credit card, which makes sense because, you know, there are people not going to be doing things that they shouldn't be doing or buying properties when they really can't afford them. Then you had the doubling of the transfer fees, and a lot of people argue, that didn't really do much. But you know what? These initiatives are steps taken. It's a trial and error, people. We are in a developing city, a developing country. It's always trial and error before we can figure out how to get this equation right. The new rental cap law had come out to help level off prices of rent across Dubai. And then the Rent Dispute Settlement Committee was formed to help tenants and landlords settle disputes within a certain set amount of time. $236 billion in real estate transactions that year. That was up 53% from the previous year. So I'm going to get into it. We're going to look at the Dubai's top 3. This is dubizzle data. The rental radar is something I'm going to explain to you. So this is the life cycle of a property. So the bottom quadrant over there represents rents bottoming out. And then you have the rental growth accelerating right here. And then you have the rental growth slowing down until finally the rents fall. So when we look at Q1 2012 to Q1 2013, we saw a 10% increase when we're talking about these 3 top key communities. And the spot over there is actually in the quadrant for rental growth accelerating. So that's when the market started accelerating again. We look at the sales price radar. It follows the same instinct, yeah? So it increased 18% from Q1 2012 to Q1 2013. Sale price growth started accelerating. So what does this really mean to the people involved? Well, Rahul's thinking, increase the rent and make up for losses. So now's a good time, and he can start thinking about increasing his rent, getting some more from the tenants. You have Jackie thinking that she needs to find a cheaper place, move probably further out towards the outskirts from Dubai Marina. And then you have this lovely Lebanese-Palestinian couple that's thinking, oh, you know what? Maybe I should consider buying before the market starts picking up too fast. What happened in 2013 to 2015? The holiday homes decree came out, Decree 41. Land Department announced $218 billion worth in real estate transactions. In 2015, they say out of a new report that came out, 23,000 new residential units are going to be in supply. What has the Land Department announced as in terms of real estate transactions to date? In H1, it's $129 billion. So we don't know where that's going to be at the end of the year, but we'll wait for it. In terms of the supply, there's a lot of talk about supply dampening the market. When we look at the population increasing over time, so last year, if we look at the population of Dubai, it was at 2.3 million, right? Increase that by 1%, what is it? 23,000, right? 23,000 units supplied. Do you know how much the population of Dubai actually grew last year? We're talking about 2 to 3%. So, give or take, we start to speculate and we worry about supply dampening the market. There are so many factors besides supply that could affect the market. There's so much happening on an international scenario when we look at Iran, when we look at Europe, when we look at what's going on in India with the tax exemptions now. There's so much that could affect the Dubai market. So let's look at the next quadrant, which talks about 2013 to 2014. Now the acceleration started picking up. We can see a 17% increase. The rental growth started accelerating. It was previously slightly lower. Continues accelerating. Then we look at 2014 to 2015. It's up there now, so the rental growth has started slowing. It's at 4% of an increase, previously at 17%. We go to 2014 to 2015, up 2%. This is the sale price. So we can see that the market has softened, all right? Our last report showed that there was a leveling off of prices, which is a good sign for the market. The whole point is, how do we sustain this? How do we sustain this? What can we do to sustain this? And I think that's the big question. And there's no one clear shot answer to this question. So let's recap. In terms of the rental radar, you can see it, 10%, 17%, 4%. The sale radar, 18%, 27%, 2%. So this is the movement from 2012 to 2015. All right, so right now we're at a time when things are slowing down. What are the thoughts of these people? So you have an investor who's thinking, okay, we'll push to sell my property just in case there's a dip, and maybe I can, invest it elsewhere when the market does come down, if it does. Then you have Jackie over here who's thinking, okay, this is great. Slowing down of a market means that my rent's not going to increase that much. Maybe I go for a bigger space. Maybe I can get a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, which is super. And then you have this lovely family who says, we'll start looking for office space once the prices start leveling off in certain areas, which is great as well. So the rental growth over 3 years for Dubai Marina, Palm Jumeirah, downtown, these are for 1-bedrooms. You're looking at, the lower line is Dubai Marina, so 2012 was 75,000, now it's at 105,000. You can see the Palm Jumeirah, 115, and now at 150,000. Yeah, so this is for rent. For sale over 3 years, you can actually see from Q1 2014 to Q1 2015, there's been no change in the Palm Jumeirah nor in Dubai Marina. It's leveled. So these kind of are signs that show that the market is kind of tapering down. I would say it's a good thing. I don't see it as a bad thing. The sale price per square foot, if we look at Jan to August data, so we're just comparing Jan data to August data, dropped by 3%. All right? So right now, when we consider 16 of the top communities in Dubai, what is the average sales price? It's $1,557 per square foot. This is the average sale price for the top 16 communities in Dubai. Sustainability, the big, big word. I love this word, and I could sit and talk about it for hours, and there's no one way of kind of figuring out how to sustain a market. But there's 3 main things, if I was to put it in a nutshell. It's to regulate, educate, and then collaborate and share. I think we're learning as we go along, There's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of different sectors in the market. You have the government that's doing certain things and the central bank supporting certain efforts. And then you have, obviously, the real estate brokers, and you have the service providers, property portals. All of us have a certain role when it comes to sustainability. So who's really responsible? It's the government and the central bank, the developers. When you think of the developers, there's a lot of developers that have put in place that you cannot resell your property until 40 to 50% of the property is complete, or wait until handover. I think these are great measures, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. Agencies, so the agents in the room. I mean, obviously, we need to make sure that the agents that are actually within our own agencies are certified, that they're professional, that they're working ethically, that they're providing high quality standards. And then you have the influential moderators. Who are these people? These are people who amplify all the inventory in the market. These are people like us, who actually showcase listings to drive investors or tenants to come through. And why are we responsible? We are responsible to a certain extent when it comes to policing the market. And we do certain things and put measures in place to try and solve that, but it's not entirely our responsibility, right? So it goes back to this whole equation. Everyone is responsible. I believe that everyone in every segment within the real estate industry needs to figure out a way to work together to make this market more vibrant, more sustainable. A lot of times what you notice in a developing country is that people, when they come here, they actually choose to come here and do business here. But the fact of the matter is that you can't point a finger and blame a certain entity for doing things a certain way because it is developing. It is a trial and error process, and I'm going to keep saying that because it is, and we need to find ways to make it more sustainable. So, for example, on dubizzle, one of the things that we do is agent authentication. And I think everyone, even real estate agencies, need to make sure that all their agents are authenticated. So for us, we get 3.7 million visits to our property portal every single month. Imagine the users that are coming on, if they don't feel like they're dealing with agents that are actually verified, they're not going to come back. So we ask for a RERA broker ID number. And for every other emirate, since it does not have a real estate regulatory authority, we actually ask them for their trade license, their visa copy, and a copy of their employment. So it kind of, you know, it's not bulletproof. It's not bulletproof. There are loopholes and there are listings, obviously. I've heard it a couple of times at today's event. There are ghost listings. There are listings that have probably come up that may not necessarily be correct, but it's work in progress. We need to find ways to clean up. We need to find ways to make it better. Educate. So we did a small survey to our users on our property for sale and property for rent section, and we asked them a simple question. Would they be interested in being better informed about the UAE property law? For example, just to know whether people really were getting the information they needed. We got a 4.36% rating from our users, which means people are craving information. They want to know their rights. They want to know more information about the communities. They want details. We did this was another question in the survey, which said, I would like insights on different communities in the UAE to help me make a better decision on where to live. Do you know what that means? It means that these people don't know where to go for information, and either our agents are not giving them the information they need that's relevant to help them make the decisions, or we just aren't doing something right, and we need to figure out how to do it better. And that's where education comes to play. And it's not just the portals. It's the agencies, it's the government, it's everyone who has a hand to play in trying to educate not only the agents, but even the buyers, the people who are in this market, the tenants, of their rights, of whether, if they're going to be evicted, does a tenant know how long an eviction notice is? I've spoken to 1 million tenants who don't know, you know? So it's things like this that they need to be informed, better informed, educated, and it's each of our responsibility to make that happen. So we launched a site called Know Your Rights, which kind of is a platform that allows users to figure out, you know, what their rights are in terms of a tenant, buyer, landlord, owner. And then sharing data. Sharing data is so important. There's one entity in this room, actually, a master key, that had introduced Master Key Connect. It was a while back. And I thought that was brilliant. But you know what the sad truth about that feature was? That agents didn't feel comfortable enough to connect with other agents. And that is a shame, because Master Key Connect actually allows transparency, right? This is something that dubizzle is trying to do as well. I mean, when we have our sessions with agents, we try and, you know, it's obviously this thing about, oh, is this agent going to steal my listing? And of course, there's negative sentiment in the market when it comes to stuff like this. But Master Key Connect, for example, to me, was a great initiative. And there should be more people out there who are doing things like this to create a more open platform. This is exactly what dubizzle is trying to do as well. So what are we launching tomorrow at Cityscape? And we're not going to share any of those insights with you right now, but we're going to be releasing for the first time commercial data. We're going to be sharing information about how the retail market has moved and the office space market's moved. We're also going to be sharing with you the top 10 nationalities that are searching for properties to buy and rent on dubizzle. We've never shared that information before, so wait for it. It's coming out tomorrow. And really, I just want to reiterate, how can we help create the sustainability? We need to regulate, educate, and collaborate together. We need to do these things better. And it's trial and error, everyone. We're all in it to make this happen, to make, we're in it to win it. We're in it to win it, guys. All right? So let's try and collaborate. Let's win it. Shukran.